This is Council Holloway.
You're back.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You have a good day today?
I did. How was your day?
It was all right.
Okay. Good.
We're ready to broadcast live whenever you guys are.
Okay. I'm ready to proceed.
Hey, you're broadcasting live.
Thank you for everyone for joining us this evening. Time is now 5:34. I'd like to call the regular city council meeting to order. Thank you for watching us on the city's IT page on YouTube and also on Council Live. I'd like to proceed with roll call, please.
Mayor Gore,
Here.
Vice Mayor Bennett, Councilor Randolph,
Here.
Councilor Holloway,
Here.
Councilor Parton,
Here.
Councilor Denton,
Here.
Councilor Pelham.
Here.
And Ms. Brown, just want to send our condolences to you and thank you for being here during your vacation and time off to help us with this council meeting. In the future, we need to make sure we have a succession plan in place to make sure you don't have to do this again, but we appreciate you doing this. Is there a motion to go into closed meeting?
I make the motion to go into closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A1 to discuss and consider personnel matters, including the consideration, appointment of prospective candidates for employment, city clerk, and appointment boards and commissions, and to the extent such discussions will be aided thereby. A4, for the protection of the privacy of individuals and personal matters not related to business.
Second.
Motion's been moved by Councilor Pelham and seconded by Councilor Parton. Is there any discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilor Randolph,
Yes.
Councilor Holloway,
Yes.
Councilor Parton,
Yes.
Mayor Gore.
One moment, Ms. Robinson.
Yes, ma'am. I sent out an amended motion
Yes, you did. Okay.
that includes A29.
A what?
A29 to discuss the award of a public contract. Do you have that motion before you, ma'am?
I had it on a computer, but I will.
Inclusive of, if you could just amend your motion to include A29 to discuss the award of a public contract, that should be sufficient.
Yeah, would you accept a friendly amendment, Mr. Councilor Parton, to amend the agenda motion to add A29?
Yeah, that's fine.
If he accepts it, do we have to still vote?
Yes, you still have to vote. Well, you have to vote on the entire motion, not necessarily now for the amendment, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, can you start with roll call over with the amended motion, please?
Councilor Randolph,
Yes.
Councilor Holloway,
Yes.
Councilor Parton,
Yes.
Mayor Gore,
Yes.
Councilor Denton,
Yes.
Councilor Pelham.
Yes.
Okay, motion's passed. We're going to leave and go into our closed session. I'll ask the city manager to call me really quickly so I can know what's going to be discussed today in closed session because I don't have an update. Okay. Ms. Robinson and any other partners, we'll let you know when to dial in, okay?
Yeah.
I would assume it's 2 terms. Mr. Cuffey's been on the school board for 6 years now. Right, but she may have been on the school board, but she wasn't on the John Tyler Community Policy Board.
Could never get the numbers. So lo and behold, I'm in Maine and I get a stop work order on the job that I have going on. This guy's flying. He does them in less than 3 months, literally a complete renovation, gut and everything. And it's sold and closed within 4. Mrs.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending the closed work session tonight. Council is still in closed session, so please be patient and they should return shortly. Okay, thanks.
Good evening. This is Tavia, and I just wanted to apologize to everyone that is on here for the work session. Hopefully, City Council will come out of closed session soon. Please hang on, and again, I apologize, and hopefully you guys can hear me. Thanks.
realize how hard it
Okay, is everyone back in?
I can't get,
Yes.
Okay. Mm.
we're 23 panelists.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Okay, we're back in. Dr. Maker, are you able to get ready to broadcast again?
Yes, we're ready. We're broadcasting now.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, everyone. Sorry for the delay of joining back out after our closed session. Is there a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
I make a motion, we come out of closed session.
So Counselor Denton, do you want to second that? Because Counselor Parton just so moved it.
I couldn't hear him. Yes, I'll second it.
Okay. So motion's been made by Counselor Parton, seconded by Counselor Denton. Is there any discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Counselor Parton,
Yes.
Mayor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Denton,
Yes.
Counselor Pelham.
Yes.
There are motion, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, can you proceed with the certification of closed session, please?
Certification pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3712D, where only public business matters, 1, lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and 2, identified in the closed meeting motion discussed in closed meeting. Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Counselor Parton,
Yes.
Mayor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Denton,
Yes.
Counselor Pelham.
Yes.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Bennett is here.
Madam Clerk, can you do the roll call for Vice Mayor Bennett, please?
Yes, my apologies. Vice Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
thank you.
She joined us in closed session, so she wasn't here for the original roll call.
Okay, my apologies.
So we're gonna move on to our open meeting. We have a work session that was scheduled for 6:30. Per our rules, we can start our council meeting later, or we can move the work session down to be for another meeting. So council can either choose to proceed and do the work session as scheduled and push back our regular meeting, or we can reschedule it.
Proceed with the work sessions is my preference.
I'm
sorry, what'd you say, Mr. Parton?
That I prefer to just go ahead and let's start knocking out these work sessions.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any comments regarding this?
Yeah, go ahead with the work session.
Okay. I don't hear any objections to not proceed with the work session, so we're going to move on. Time is now 7:38. Is there a motion to amend or adopt our work session this evening?
I move that we adopt the work session agenda.
Just a work session?
Correct. There's a motion on the floor to adopt the work session agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made by Counselor Parton, seconded by Counselor Pelham. Is there any discussion? Seeing no hands raised. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Counselor Parton,
Yes.
Mayor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Denton,
Yes.
Counselor Pelham.
Yes.
Thank you. We're going to proceed with our work session agenda. We still have to do roll call because this is a separate meeting.
Mayor Gore,
Here.
Vice Mayor Bennett,
Here.
Counselor Randolph,
Here.
Counselor Holloway,
Here.
Counselor Parton,
Here.
Counselor Denton,
Here.
Counselor Pelham.
Here.
All right, thank you. The first item we have on here is work session item number 1, HRHA rezoning. I am not sure
Yes,
who
ma'am.
our guest is this evening for this topic.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. This is Mrs. Griffin from the Department of Development.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for continuing with the work session this evening. The first item is a request from the Hopewell Redevelopment and Housing Authority to rezone property, excuse me, from R3 and B3 to R4. I will request the mayor to allow me to bring up a presentation. What you're scrolling through now is our staff report, but I have provided something that is more succinct so those who are viewing online can follow with that. So,
Okay, so
if you
that's
don't mind.
Is that not included in our packet?
No, the PowerPoint is not included in the packet. All the information is the same. I just did bullet points of what's in the staff report.
Okay, IT, can you please make Ms. Griffin the host for the moment so she can share her screen? And I remind council per rules to allow them to complete their presentation where we ask questions.
Ms. Griffin is now the host.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hopefully everyone can see the screen. It's titled City Work Session 9/15/2020. Again, as I stated, this first work session is a rezoning request from the Hopewell Redevelopment and Housing Authority to rezone property located in the Highland Park subdivision from R3 and B3 to R4, which is our residential apartment zoning district. The property is located off of Westover Avenue and Cedar Street at its intersection with Highland Avenue. Again, the applicant is HRHA. Tonight, we do have Tavares McCoy, the Chief Development Officer of HRHA, on this call. He is here to answer any questions and to give an overview of the rezoning request after staff gives presentation. There are 3 properties in question. The first is subparcel 0420195. That is zone R3. That's our residential high density zoning district. And then subparcel 0420095, that is zone B3, and subparcel 0420252, which is also zone R3. This is located in the Ward 2 district, and they are proposing to build 68 units. In making any rezoning change, the Planning Commission and the City Council have to look at the comprehensive plan and what the land use designation is for this area. This particular area of Winston Churchill Drive is slated to be neighborhood commercial. Just to give you an overview of this particular district, it does call for high density single, attached, or multifamily residences. The detached should be 5 to 7 dwelling units per acre, and the attached 10 to 14 dwelling units per acre. There should be mixed and high density uses on this property. This would equate to 60 to 120 units in this particular designation. Just to give you an idea of why they're coming before you, again, as I stated, the property, a portion of the property is zone R3. By right, the R3 zoning district you can build apartments there. Based on the density requirements, they would be able to build 40 by right units on this particular property. This would go through an administrative site plan approval process. This is a process that is taken care of in the development office, along with the engineering department, stormwater, and the Hopewell water renewal. And it does not have any oversight except to make sure that it meets the zoning requirements and to make sure that it meets the building requirements. On the other hand, they are requesting to be zone R4. The reason for this, of course, is because they can get a higher density out of the parcels. They would be able to build with the R4 60 to 68 units. HRHA has provided voluntary proffers, and we will go over that information in just a few minutes. And with the rezoning, the city can have oversight in the site and building design. The voluntary proffers provided by the applicant are as follows. They will design and build using the traditional neighborhood design. This includes buildings that will be built close to the street. There'll be sidewalks, walking paths, bike paths to connect to future pedestrian scale paths developed by the city. There will be well-designed open space. Parking will be located behind or under the building. The development should contain no more than 68 units. The buildings will be well-designed with high-quality construction materials. Specifically, the building will have its exterior composed of brick and hardy board material. The building will meet the energy efficiency requirements for Earthcraft certification. The plans will be discussed with the police department to include elements of crime prevention through environmental design. And finally, conceptual plans and drawings, once available, will be reviewed by the Planning Commission to make sure the design has the correct height and number of floors and buildings, the setbacks, and the overall site layout prior to site plan approval. This is an elevation of the 68-unit building that HRJ is proposing on the site. And this is the site design. If you recall, this HRHA presented this rezoning back in 2018. At that time, you asked for different scenarios. This particular project is being built to help alleviate the apartments that are now at Davisville and Bland Court. 68 of the units from that particular public housing will be moved to this location. And the question that council had at that time was what would happen to the remaining 52 families that would still be at Davisville Bland. So HRHA wanted to make sure that they provided that same information in this packet. Scenario one, if HRHA gained the city council's approval of the 68 units, they would then identify and acquire property in the city to construct the apartment community for the remaining 52 families. Scenario two is if they gain approval by city council, they would then provide housing choice vouchers for the remaining 52 families. At their meeting, the Planning Commission this year did recommend approval of the rezoning request, and they fully endorsed the voluntary proffer conditions offered by the Hopewell Redevelopment and Housing Authority. This ends the presentation of staff. Again, Mr. Tavares McCoy has joined us and is able to speak if you would like and to answer any questions that you may have.
I will just share something briefly. You mentioned the last time we talked about this, we talked about I'm sorry, is this my time to speak right here? I just jumped right in there.
Yes, you're fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I was stating that we previously talked about that this would potentially be a direct replacement for some housing at Davisville. Some of those families will move here directly. As the discussion has continued further, we understand that. So one of the things that housing authorities across the country have been going through in these redevelopments, there have been situations where families have had to move off site, but the new housing not yet be ready. And so there have been issues with, making sure families do have the right to return. And so as we were thoughtful about that, we understand that because Davisville won't be rebuilt where it stands, it could create that type of situation. And so in terms of the phasing here, it's very possible, and we would intend to actually move Thomas Roth families first, because we will with some planning with the city, be able to rebuild at Thomas Roth, and therefore residents who currently live at Davisville could potentially move to new apartments there. And so I don't know if you follow me with that, but essentially it creates a situation where—
Can you wait one moment, please? Go ahead, Mr.
it creates a situation where no families are in that kind of, for lack of a better word, just like that gray area of, housing has been torn down, but now they're waiting to activate their right to return. In that scenario, families actually are moving to a space that's prepared, that's ready for them. There is none of this kind of time that, again, other agencies are dealing with, where families are having to basically figure it out until that new housing is built.
Thank you. And does that complete both of your presentations before we open the floor for questions?
Yes, I'm prepared for questions.
Okay, first hand I see raised is Counselor Pelham and then Counselor Randolph.
Yes, what was the significance of you saying Thomas Roth Court? You said that we're talking about Davisville being demolished first, correct? I mean, after the apartments are built, is that correct?
No, in fact, what I was stating is that because Davisville won't be rebuilt on its current site,
okay,
it would be necessary and it would work essentially better for those families to
move directly in.
Right. And so essentially what happens is the housing authority with these new apartments would move Thomas Roth families and then bring down that property, build new there, and then move Davisville families. Because again, Thomas Roth area is able and it's suitable for redevelopment as residential, while we understand that Davisville is not. And so to make sure that there is none of that lag of families being
proposal then.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
How do you get around the proposal to demolish Davisville and move those families by the federal government to changing the whole complex to move another complex? How can we do that?
Well, we've come to rezone the property located at in the Highland Park area.
I know that, but I'm just saying, that doesn't make sense to me. How can we can rezone it, but knowing that background, which one, do you have to go back to the federal government to get the approval to change your site plan?
We don't have a site plan. I'm not sure.
I mean, whatever you want to call it, whatever the official term is, to change from Davisville moving to Thomas Roth moving into this.
Well, you may recall that in previous meetings we shared that we intend to redevelop our entire portfolio, and in that process, I mean, that's going to include both Thomas Roth and Davisville.
Yeah.
Davisville has always been technically at the bottom of that list because of its complexity. I'm sorry, did someone else have a question?
Yes, I do. Counselor Holloway.
Okay. I'm gonna finish it, Counselor.
Okay.
Can we let him, can we just let him finish his question?
I just don't want to be a part of something that the government is not going to.
I'm sorry. Can I? So the government will have to approve both. Neither are approved. Again, as you'll remember,
the government has to do something.
We recently got a letter of support from the city to move forward with redevelopment of Piper Square.
Really?
So that was approved.
By who?
Can you tell me who approved that or signed the letter that approved that? Yes, we want to know.
Who approved
that and who signed that letter for it to be approved?
I'm assuming you guys approved that we have a letter.
I never seen a letter. Was there a letter that was sent from council, or was it sent from one person?
There was a letter that was sent from the mayor with council support going back to a meeting we had in November.
But did council sign that letter? Or was
No,
it just the mayor?
That was the prior council. First of all, I hereby jumping in for clarity. This dates back to
No,
the
I did see, I want
council.
to see that letter, please. Because
One
this is
moment.
Piper Square and it's Ward 7.
It may be Ward 7, but as I'm trying to explain to you, when this was first brought up, it was a former council and you weren't elected yet. So we can definitely get you a copy of the letter.
No, definitely,
But
Mayor
we
Ward,
heard
this
everyone
letter
asking
was signed by you,
questions. So I'm
actually.
just
I'm
trying
gonna
to make
forward it
sure
to everyone
that
so they can see that you signed it without the consent of council.
that's what I'm trying.
I'm gonna forward it to everyone so they can see that you signed it without the consent of council.
So Vice Mayor Bennett, this is what I'm trying to avoid in this meeting. Making inflammatory statements that aren't true. As I'm trying to relay, this is with the.
No, I'm not making an
council.
inflammatory statement. Everyone, please check your email.
So this was discussed with council, and Piper Square's renovation was under works with the former council. This current council hasn't had any work sessions with the HRHA, correct, Mr. McCoy?
Yeah.
No work session.
Thank you. So we can get you the letter, but this project in Piper Square was done with the former council.
If I may, ladies and gentlemen of council, again, I understand that these issues do overlap and there are some complexities within all of these issues. But I would like to just kind of, again, just focus our attention around this idea that this is a rezoning that is completely and totally in alignment with the direction that the city would like to go per its comprehensive plan. We have further gone to submit some level of proffers to make sure that beyond even what flexibility we might have had, that we even more so fit within exactly what the city wants to see in terms of this rezoning. And so again, please understand that anything we do in terms of redevelopment, that particularly as we talk about removing public housing and redeveloping public housing, that there will be countless conversations with council and with the city and with residents in order to do that. But for the sake of this particular discussion, it's really about this land use discussion, that this is the right use for this land, that even if you know, that this is, it's just the right use. That's what we're trying to get at here.
So Councilor Pelham still technically has the floor. Councilor Pelham, are you complete? And then if so, we'll pass it to Councilor Holloway.
No,
Well, I don't really think that we should be approving anything until we know the long range plans of what they're gonna do on the property, whether or not they're gonna move Thomas Rolfe, Piper Square, or Davisville. Economically, development to me is a concern. We know the rash of shootings and deaths that happened in Davisville and Thomas Rolfe as well. I still have concerns about placing both housing units in between a middle school, because if there were additional shootings that come out of there, you put children's lives at risk. If it's because people just don't shoot at night no more. We have data now to support middle of the day, 12 o'clock.
Can I just submit that shootings happen throughout
everywhere? I'm just saying excuse me.
So, but to put that on the residents of these particular properties, frankly,
I'm not putting anything on anybody. I understand looking into.
But you're connecting it to.
Okay, excuse me, guys. I feel like it just kind of. One moment.
My opinion.
Councilor Pelham, please stop. I know it may be your time. I'm trying to get everybody back on board because there was another outburst earlier from other people. We're still at a council meeting. We started the meeting late. We're trying to make sure we catch up on our time and get everything we have to get done. People may not say stuff that people agree with, but we all have to just remember to be respectful. And when someone has the floor, they have the floor. If someone has a rebuttal, they can come back after when it's their turn. So
everybody knows my concern.
Councilor Pelham has the floor. Then Councilor Randolph, and then Councilor Holloway.
Thank you. What my only concern is that before I can make a decision on a different decision, I would like to know the long-range plan of their plan and who they are moving on that property. That's the only thing I have to say.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Counselor Holly. I forgot that Counselor Randolph had her hand raised originally too. So she'll go next and then you can go, okay?
Thank you. Doris, I am and have been for this development. I do think that the two sites that you bring up certainly need to be updated. But let me see if I understand what you said to us earlier. Whereas you said in 18, you brought this proposal to that council at that time, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay. And they voted it down for whatever reasons. The new council was not involved. However, because of shootings and things, I would like to see this redevelopment and rezoning happen, because I think we owe it to people that are in the antiquated and very poor housing that we have now. In the new building, is it anticipated that we would have security? Can you tell me that?
Yes, it is anticipated. In fact, one of the proffers you see there talks about that we will be, the architect of record will use crime prevention through physical design that will work into that property.
Okay. And then secondarily, you are telling us that based on the delays that we have now had with approving this project, that Davisville will no longer be the group where they will get into these apartments, depending on how many you build, but they will receive vouchers, or they will go over to Thomas Rolfe Court, and then existing people will leave Thomas Rolfe Court to fill the new spaces at this location. I wasn't quite clear on that. Could you help me understand that a little better?
Yes. So essentially what happens is, again, the Housing Authority seeks to redevelop their entire portfolio.
Right.
We know that where Davisville is, it's not the place, where the city desires residential, is not the ideal place to rebuild residential.
Right.
So in saying that, if we were to demolish Davisville first, it would create a situation where there would be displacement, but not necessarily immediate spaces for those people. And the same thing. And so what happens is, if we bring down Thomas Rolfe first, and those residents are able to move to these to be determined new spaces, then we're able to rebuild and redesign and use the same concepts on what is now the Thomas Rolfe site. And that will allow us to move the Davisville families. And so that's what I'm saying.
Now I understand what you're saying. So it's rebuild, move Thomas Rolfe, rebuild parts of that, and then Davisville can go over there. But in looking at that, I'm not privy to, I thought Davisville was the oldest, most antiquated, and least of the good locations for HRHA that we want people living in. Living conditions, I guess, is what I'm talking about. I thought that Davisville was on the bottom.
So from a location, I'm sorry, was that a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, based on the actual living conditions of those apartments at Davisville, aren't they in worse shape and present more problems for the residents than the locations at Thomas Rolfe, or am I incorrect?
On the contrary, Davisville, while from a location standpoint and an age standpoint, it trust me, it does have its issues, but structurally it is sound. While Thomas Roth tends to have more structural problems of late. And so from a building standpoint, Davisville is sturdier, so to say.
And I guess what I'm looking at is not sturdiness, but livability. Okay. I want the people that are in the facilities that are the worst to have the option to move first. And that is something that I assume that HRHA board has looked at, discussed, and determined based on this decision. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for the additional explanations. I appreciate it.
Okay, Counselor Holloway.
Well, initially, we went to Davisville because it was requested by council for us to, well, I requested that we take some type of survey to see how, get the opinions of the constituents in Davisville. And most of them preferred community more so than vouchers, because after Mr. Benham explained to them the extent of what they would have to encounter with utilities with the voucher, they did not want vouchers. So that was the plan initially in reference to a citing or getting the concerns of the constituents. And Davisville is the oldest of Thomas Roth, and we have some of the constituents wanted to move out of Davisville once that survey was done. Can you expound on that, Mr. Tavares?
Yes, ma'am. So if I hear your question clearly, you're asking what was the plan based on people wanting to move out of Davisville?
Yes, we wanted to. We had done. Remember, we did the survey.
Absolutely.
Went door to door, and we did a survey in reference to the concerns of the constituents in Davisville.
Absolutely.
And, health reasons were also, I think, was in the picture too, in reference to Davisville.
Yes, ma'am. And so, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, as you stated, again, families, initially there was a bit more of a mixed bag with families saying they might prefer a voucher and some preferring to move to a new community. Those numbers moved way to the let's move to a new community side as the discussion carried on and people heard from each other about, basically the other factors that are within that. And so, and so again, the plan has always been that at some point that the families that are there at Davisville will move away from that site to new communities, and that site would be demolished, and that's still the plan. And I think it's important to know that these things, the goal is that this happens in quick succession. That this is not like, oh, Davisville is going to be there for another decade. No, this is the plan is that this redevelopment happens in quick succession. That as I stated, Piper Square is moving forward with its rehabilitation, and then shortly thereafter, of course, with some additional conversation with council, we'll get support from council to move forward with both Davisville and Thomas Roth.
And Edward Bland Court is included when you move Davisville, correct?
Correct. When I say Davisville, I actually mean Davisville and Bland Court. So I apologize if I put that assumption out there.
Thank you. Another question is, in reference to the new redevelopment, how close will the property be to the street? That's within the reading.
So when you, the design emphasis, I think this picture that's up now kind of shows how close it would be to the street. And this is based on, it's basically a planning and architectural design called traditional neighborhood design. And it's been developed for some time now. It's what architects across the country recommend, both for aesthetics as well as functionality. And in this case, it also helps with the idea of crime prevention through environmental design.
Okay, another question is the safety of the children that move into that area, if it's that close to the street.
Well, while the building is close to the street, as you can see behind that building, there is an awful lot of green space. And so the children will have ample space to play. In fact, this zoning does not even let us build too much of a footprint on that property in order to maintain some of that green space.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Denton, Councilor Parton. Councilor Denton, please unmute your microphone.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Mr. McCoy, when we discussed this before in council, I thought we were discussing moving the residents from Davisville into these apartments, which would still leave 52 families that would have to get vouchers with the city. I guess I'm for rezoning it for the 68. I'm fine with that. But I really, truly would like to see the residents in Davisville have the preference to these apartments before anyone else. And if they don't want them, that's fine. But I think that was the goal that I was for, was to get all of the folks out of Davisville and get them situated in better housing, and then take care of the other localities as they come along.
So,
Councilor Denton, was that just your comment, or do you have a question?
That's my comment. I mean, I don't know what has changed since unless I misunderstood, and maybe I didn't. And if I did, please correct me. But I thought that's what we were discussing before we're moving Davisville, because it's so close to the plants. It's not environmentally safe. Many reasons. And I just am for doing that first. And is that not what we were talking about the last time?
So I hear two questions. The first is that what we were talking about, moving Davisville the last time this came up? And the answer to that is yes. Yes, we were talking about moving forward with Davisville redevelopment in the near future. And there are several factors as far as why that made sense. And you asked another question, which was what has changed? And thank you for that question, because I think it's important to note that what has changed is by HRHA kind of engaging in conversations with colleagues and actually taking a look across the country again and seeing that in these redevelopments, it's important to have a long vision in mind, because some agencies are getting caught, or not necessarily getting caught, but the families are being affected because, for example, with a Thomas Roth that needs to be torn down. But that means we're going to have to displace, 120 or so families that are then going to have to figure it out for however long it takes us to rebuild on that site. And so the shift happened because we saw the ability to not have that happen, to not have these families have to quote unquote figure it out while that's being rebuilt. Instead, to phase this in such a way that when that first new development comes online, Thomas Roth shifts over there, and right behind it, we're tearing Thomas Roth down and rebuilding there, and then Davisville is shifting to that location, or not Davisville, but some of the families that are in Davisville are shifting to that location, and then Davisville is being torn down, and no families experience long-term displacement, even if temporary.
What do you see as a timeline doing all of this?
So in a perfect world, if we got all the approvals we need on the first bite, this is probably 5 years from start to finish. I can tell you our experience with Piper Square was that it's taken us about 2.5 years to get through all the necessary approvals, and that will be underway and completed in about 18 to 22 months. And so again, we expect that the supportive council is a piece of that, and the other pieces are fairly straightforward in terms of we've worked with HUD on this type of thing before. We know that how that approval works and the time it takes. So again, I mean, we could be looking at 5 years from now where there's no quote unquote public housing in the city, that there's affordable housing that's been built up to par with any design, in the city. And so that's the goal.
Do you know right off, excuse me, do you know right offhand how many people were displaced in Langston Park when you tore that down and those folks had to be relocated?
So at Langston Park, only a handful were permanently displaced. But again, those families had to deal with that whole transition of at some point where the old buildings were down, the housing authority worked with many of those families to take temporary housing nearby in the city. And then when that housing was rebuilt, they were able to come back. And so, and that's much simpler as well, because Langston Park was home to about 25 or so families versus the 120 or so that either of these other properties present.
Thank you.
Okay, the next person was Councilor Parton.
Before I make my comments, I'm going to move that we extend our meeting until we finish item R7 on the city council agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Parton, seconded by, I think was Vice Mayor Bennett. Was that correct? Was that correct?
I second it. Are you asking the clerk?
I was just asking in general. I wasn't sure if it was you. I thought it was you, but I was asking for clarification from whoever. So if you second it, perfect. So motion's been made by Councilor Parton, seconded by Vice Mayor Bennett. Madam Clerk, can you repeat the motion, please, and then proceed with roll call?
Can we have, oh, my hand raised.
It is raised.
That substitute motion. Ma'am?
You would like permission to make a substitute motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Councilor Pelham is.
I would like to make the motion to adjourn at 10:30 regardless of where we are. in my motion, asking for the permission to do so.
So Counselor Pelham is asking for permission to make a substitute motion. This does not mean you're voting on the motion right now, but rather giving her permission to make a substitute motion. And I believe that I'll second that. Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion?
Yes. Well, and we know that the case is that we have an agenda with a lot of information that we have to go over. And month after month, we come and we discuss, and we never get to some of the items that are important, I think, to the citizen base as well. So I just think that we should work to 10:30 regardless. And the original 3 hours that we used to use from 7:30 to 10:30, and just complete as much business as we have, or continually try to get special sessions to get this agenda down to some semblance of a regular meeting where we can start and end at 10:30.
Any other discussion? There's hands raised, but I know it's from the former motion. So I'm at former discussion. So I wanted to just make sure I'm not overlooking anyone. Does anyone want to speak to this motion? If so, feel free. Okay, Madam Clerk, the motion on the floor is to allow Counselor Pelham to make a substitute motion. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Bennett. Counselor Randolph.
No.
Counselor Holloway.
Yes.
Counselor Parton.
No.
Mayor Gore.
Yes.
Counselor Denton.
No.
Counselor Pelham.
Yes.
Madam
Mayor-
Clerk, did you get my no?
Well, no, because you.
No, one moment. Vice Mayor Bennett, she called your name twice and you were silent and you were still connected to the software. So
Yeah, but you know what? I'm sorry. It was my mic that was off. I'm sorry.
I'm looking
Yes,
at
I'd
the
like to say
screen,
no.
and
Thank
it's
you.
not muted, but let me check with the city attorney on this. And we need to address this problem because it's kind of been an ongoing issue. So when council, Madam Attorney, can you please unmute your microphone? When we're doing roll call, I've asked the clerk to call on people more than once to ensure that they're online. Silence in our rules, if you're present, is recorded as a yes. So my question is, I know she wants to clarify the vote, and that's fine. We can address it because she's stating it here. That's not an issue. We'll make sure it's a no on the record. But moving forward, if we complete a roll call and someone comes back to state a vote when they're on the line, how should we address that moving forward, Ms. Robinson?
Well, I mean, I'm only going to be guided by the rules, and the rules don't address what happens with the technical difficulties, which, you know, we have to accept the representations as true when they're made. You know, if the vote had already been taken and recorded, like you've announced, you know, 4 in favor, 3 against, or something like that, then maybe my position could be a little bit more clear. But this is before the vote was called, and the counselor indicated the basis for her silence when her name was called. We're in new territory. This is in a completely electronic meeting, and so I think we have to just kind of deal with it based on the facts as they exist at the time. So I'm not sure if I can give you guidance for the future with this, but I would say that once the vote is called, we need to just deal with it as a call vote, as we would if everyone was physically present in the same room. And at that point in time, if a counselor wants to change his or her vote, then there are 2 options available: a motion to reconsider, a motion to rescind. And that would be the formal process I would urge taken at that time, notwithstanding the fact that the vote might have just been called. If we can use that in the short term, I think that would be helpful.
Is everyone clear on that?
No.
Okay, so once The process is once there is a vote, the chair usually calls the vote. Ayes, 3 in favor, 4 against, or whatever the case may be. The motion fails or the motion passes. Once that is done, irrespective of whether you had technical difficulties or not, you will have to change your vote via a motion to reconsider or a motion to rescind, employing the rules that are laid out either by your rules or by Robert's Rules of Order.
Right.
If before the vote, a counselor says, I was not heard because of a technical difficulty, then I think we just take that as face value. And if the vote has not been, again, called, let them announce what their vote would have been had they been heard in the first instance.
Yes, ma'am. The one piece I have is what if the vote was not called? I don't remember that every single vote we take, whether or not the mayor calls that. So if it's not consistent and it doesn't happen, what happens then?
Well, I'm trying to provide guidance in a situation that we're not familiar with. So I'm going to say, because the vote should be called at the end of a voting session, whatever that may be, once it is called, then that will become the trigger for a formal motion to reconsider or rescind. So it might not feel like there's even application at the beginning simply because of past practices, and that might very well be the case. But I've been asked for guidance, and this is the best that I can do under these circumstances.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilman Randolph.
I just want to make sure that, and I'm not questioning what you're saying to us. I'm just saying that you're trying to give us some guidance, and I agree with that guidance, but I just want to make sure what we're going to do. You've given us what we should do as counselors if the vote is called for. Should there be a future time that the mayor may not say what the vote was, the tally, and is that should we still take that as done even though it wasn't verbalized and the person doesn't have the chance to come back in, or it has to be, the tally has to be given for those rules to be invoked?
Okay, so
You understand what I'm asking?
I think I do. So listen to how I respond and let me know if it sounds like it's responsive. So as long as she has not called the vote, announced what the vote was,
right,
we should permit someone to clarify what their silence was intended to be.
Okay.
Okay. But once it's called and we've moved forward and someone says, oh, now my microphone is working, that's great, but now you're going to have to do a motion to reconsider or a motion to rescind.
Okay. Just wanted to make that super clear. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I can't raise my hand. I'm sorry. So the mayor didn't call the vote as passed.
I was in the
So I
process
just want to
of
be
doing
clear
that.
that my vote is going to be recorded.
For this instance, I don't mind doing it, but I was actually in mid-sentence calling the vote when you jumped out and said that something was wrong with your microphone. So that's fine. And I said that earlier, we can adjust the record to have it report that you voted no. But moving forward, I'll call the votes out, and Madam Clerk, in the event that I may not remember or something happens, because we have a lot going on with these meetings, you can also call the vote as the clerk as well. So I'll take primary on it, but in the event that I may overlook it, please feel free to do that as you're tallying out at the end of the motion. So for this one, since Vice Mayor Bennett was stating it when I was trying to do the call, that's fine. Record her as a no for this vote, please.
And let me just clarify, is it when you start to make the clarification?
Oh,
God.
There's one minute
if someone is
It's becoming a problem.
well, I mean,
you just said I was starting to say this. So does that
I mean,
mean
it
the
is a
city
problem
council-
because, I mean, technically speaking, I have the floor. I shouldn't be interrupted when anyone has the floor. So,
I know, but I mean, I understand what you're saying, but if they're trying to get their vote in and they want, they realize that their mic hadn't been on and I mean, we're starting to get into the nitpicking, but I want to just make everybody on the same page so there's no questions or arguments later.
so I think that I agree with you. I think for the purposes of right now, we got the gist of it. I feel like when we have those one-offs, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you. That is going to happen. We're just going to have to keep talking this through after this meeting, but then also keep working out the kinks. But it's very clearly stated, once it's called, then you can't go back. But I mean, in fairness, if someone's in the process of calling it and your microphone is clearly not muted, then we'll address that issue. But let's keep talking about this offline. But for tonight and for where we are, we have some clarity. But thank you for bringing that up. We'll find a way to circle back to that. And Madam Attorney, please just make a note so we can find a way to come back to that point at some point later on in discussion. Madam Clerk, for right now, please record Vice Mayor Bennett as the no, which means that Councillor Pelham's motion to make a substitute has failed. So the motion on the floor is back to Councillor Parton. Madam Clerk, can you repeat Councillor Parton's motion so everyone's on the same page, please?
I just need clarity. It's actually 8:30, so that would mean the meeting would be over because a vote was not made, if I'm correct.
Parton made a motion and Councillor Denton seconded it, and then Councillor Pelham came in and asked for a substitute.
Good night.
Yes, but it's 8:30, so the
Oh,
meeting.
sorry, I forgot. No, never mind. All right.
I was just making sure. I didn't know if.
It's 8:30. I didn't pay attention to the time, so you're exactly correct. So, yeah. Madam Attorney, this means we're done, right?
Yes.
All right, well, everyone have a good evening.
Can I ask a question before we all go?
Actually, the meeting is over. So you'll have to talk offline, Councillor Denton. IT, please disconnect.
That's what you get for being negative.
IT, can you please disconnect because we're still broadcasting.
Said something else.
I said that's what you get for being negative.
Nobody was being negative.
Yeah, sure. Y'all just did.
Dr. Manker, I don't have the controls to mute everyone.
That's why you did it, because who made the suggestion?
Thank you.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah.